Roronoa Zoro, the man with the biggest boobies in all of One Piece. But he's not just sexy eye candy. Zoro is the first mate, or vice captain, of the Straw Hats, and he usually fights the second strongest bad guy of the arc. His dream is to become the world's greatest swordsman and have his name remembered by the heavens. Zoro is known to be one of the most badass, coolest, and strongest characters in One Piece, which is at the core of his character. But there is more to it than that. So deep down, who is Roronoa Zoro? Why is he a perfect fit as the first mate to the Pirate King? And why will he be the strongest swordsman ever to have lived? Let me ask you a question. What does it mean to be strong, both mentally and physically? Is it to have an unyielding will to become stronger, the strongest? Is it to stick to your values, your honor, and your promises no matter what? Of course, this is only one way to interpret being strong, but this is the way Roronoa Zoro interprets it as well. Zoro embodies this strongman persona and archetype, but deep down under his massive manly boobies is a softer side, someone who cares very deeply about his crew, just like Luffy. He's actually more akin to the samurai character archetypes of old Japanese films. He is stoic, brave, and honorable. But what sets him apart is that Zoro is also a very simple man. He drinks booze and enjoys naps, just like any one of the bros. He's also kind of an idiot here and there, and he gets lost like one too. He is very uncouth, like a certain curly eyebrowed chef would say. But the most outstanding characteristic of Zoro must be his determination to be the strongest and his loyalty. When Zoro is introduced, we see a glimpse of his insane determination and his softer side, when he decides not to eat or drink for a month and stay tied up just to save one little girl. Then right after that, he's saved by Luffy and immediately shows loyalty to him by fighting the Marines and becoming a wanted man for the sake of Luffy. He was literally a pirate hunter, but my man Luffy changed his mind, and now he's loyal to a pirate. I think it was one of the best introductions to a character ever, in my opinion. So right away, we get a picture of who this Zoro guy is. And he's kind of a badass. Why do people always say that? If you ask anyone who has ever watched One Piece to describe Zoro as a character, they would probably say he's a freaking badass. He is just pure badass. So I just want to show you some Zoro moments to show you why he's such a bona fide badass. But before that, let's define badass. A tough, uncompromising, or intimidating person. Okay, now that's out of the way, let's start with example number 1. Zoro versus Mihawk. Especially the moment where he's stabbed literally inches from his heart and just stands there, refusing to back down. There is no compromise. It is he becomes the world's greatest swordsman or dies. Example number 2. Zoro versus Monet. This man is so goddamn intimidating, he beat Monet with pure fear. Didn't even actually cut her. She was so shook and scared, her knees were weak. If that ain't badass, I don't know what is. Example 3. Zoro versus Killer. This fight is Zoro in a nutshell. He will take a devastating hit just to shrug it off and then use his opponent's weapon, then proceeds to instill the fear of God into Killer and one-shot his ass. Pure badass. Okay, I think you get the picture. So I just also want to say that Zoro is a lot like Luffy, in the sense that his character does not change a lot through the series, because his determination is key for his success to become the world's greatest. And he instantly realizes in the beginning against Mihawk that he's weak and must become stronger. And from then on, it's all about his journey to become the strongest. We watch him not change too much as a character, but change as a warrior and swordsman, getting new techniques, power-ups, and fighting stronger and stronger opponents. However, we do see character development in Zoro with his loyalty to Luffy, which I will talk about right now. Loyalty is the greatest trait a first mate can have. A first mate must be trustworthy, an extension of the captain's will. The way Zoro sees it is that to be loyal to someone, that someone would have to rival him in both strength and determination. It just so happens Luffy has determination and strength in spades. The only crazier goal than world's strongest swordsman is becoming the Pirate King. Zoro seems to be testing Luffy and watching him in the beginning to see if he's worthy of his loyalty. But he quickly develops a friendship with him and starts to really respect him. He initially told Luffy that if joining his crew ever impedes on his goal of becoming the strongest swordsman, he will not hesitate to leave the crew or take down Luffy himself. But this contradicts what he does at the end of Thriller Bark. Yes, we are getting there. So after witnessing Luffy's crazy crackhead energy and seeing what type of change in world this man can make, he sees Luffy more than just a captain. He sees him as his best friend and future king of the pirates. This development happens slowly in the background as Zoro naturally becomes closer and closer to Luffy. Going back to Thriller Bark, after fighting Moria, exhausted from the battle, no one else conscious to fight, he faces another threat, a warlord of the sea, Bartholomew Kuma. There is no chance of winning against him. He fights to the bitter end with a heart full of determination. In a last-ditch effort, he offers his own life to save his captain. Why? He just said he would leave the crew, take Luffy's head. Being a pirate ever impedes on his goal, so why give up his life? Zoro proclaims that this is the head of the future world's strongest swordsman, equal to that of the future king of the pirates, so take my life. Zoro's loyalty to Luffy is now equal to him with being the world's strongest swordsman. If he can't make Luffy the Pirate King, his ambition is worth nothing. So he is willing now to throw away his dream to protect his captain. Kuma gives him an offer. Take all of Luffy's pain, which will surely kill you, and I will leave. Zoro does not hesitate. And what happens to Zoro? He tanks that shit, and against all odds, survives. Standing there, covered in blood, Sanji runs up and asks him, where did all this blood come from? He utters one of the most badass lines in anime history. Nothing happened. Holy shit, this man is the epitome of loyal. He literally shoulders the pain of Luffy and wants no praise or anyone to know about it. He especially doesn't want Luffy to know about it because Luffy would definitely feel guilty for not being there to protect his crew. Luffy's the first one to lay his life on the line for his crew, but Zoro is the first one up to lay his life on the line for his captain. Sanji's a very close second. This is just a GOAT moment in One Piece. Him and Luffy are the ultimate brothers from another mother. Zoro is his ultimate homie, looking out for him and making sure he's on track. A first mate always gotta make sure the captain's in line. So he's kind of like a stern older brother, giving Luffy stop goofing around talks left and right. For example, in Punk Hazard, seeing Luffy run around goofing about, he reminds him that this is the real shit, the next level, so don't slip up. And last episode, I talked about his moment with Luffy after he fought Usopp. Zoro's always gonna be that big bro, making sure Luffy is going to be the king of the pirates. Zoro's ultimate bromance with Luffy, his resolve to make Luffy Pirate King, and his loyalty makes Zoro the best first mate in One Piece history. Now, why will he be the strongest swordsman? I thought about this a lot, and I think Oda has been setting this up since the beginning. Oda loves to add tidbits of history and myths into One Piece. So I took a look into who the Japanese consider the real-life world's strongest swordsman, and that is Miyamoto Musashi. Before Miyamoto Musashi died, he compiled 21 principles on how a warrior should live. Clearly, Zoro follows a few of these principles, but not all of them, as I believe Oda simply just doesn't agree with some of these principles. For example, Principle 13, do not pursue the taste of good food. But clearly, Zoro loves sake and will pursue it. But Zoro exudes many of the other principles, such as do not regret what you have done, do not fear death, never stray from the way, do not collect or practice with weapons beyond what is useful, do not act following customary beliefs, do not let yourself be guided by the feelings of lust or love. These are just a few of the principles Zoro follows. Of course, he does not follow all 21, but as you see here, he follows many of them. I think Oda purposely did this to show us that these are the principles needed to become the strongest swordsman. Evidence from real life. Now, if you look at all of Zoro's major fights or duels, there's one thing in common. He is awfully close to death. Miyamoto Musashi won 60 duels to the death, making him a man who has brushed by death many times. Being the world's strongest swordsman means winning duels like these against the strongest opponents. I believe that by winning all of his duels so close to death, he is proving himself to eventually become the strongest. Because each time he's close to death, he has no choice but to evolve. Oda has stated that Haki blooms in battle. I think it truly blossoms near death. Look at Zoro versus Mr. One. He unlocks the power to cut metal, being inches away from death. Recently, let's look at Zoro versus King, where he must learn to control his conqueror's Haki or Enma, or else he's gonna die. The man literally saw death after this. By being pushed to the brink over and over, and then being forced to become stronger and stronger, he will eventually win many duels to the death and reach that level he seeks. A similar path the real-life world's strongest swordsman, Miyamoto Musashi, took. After losing to Mihawk, he swore never to lose again in a duel, and strictly talking about fair duels, he has never lost since. So, Zoro in a nutshell is a badass. His loyalty, goated, making him the GOAT first mate. His resemblance to the real-life strongest swordsman, and all his dubs close to death, project this man to be the strongest swordsman in One Piece. Thanks for watching this episode of the Straw Hat character breakdowns, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.